So as your clients are talking, or your leads are talking to you, your clients, listen to what they're saying, because or even if you're not even in business yet and you're thinking of getting into a business, just listen to that, what people are asking for, because there's obviously a niche there, and maybe you can fill that niche. So
you're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Venue RX podcast. On this channel, we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And we have a really cool opportunity today to divert from some of the wedding venue owner series that we've been doing that has been so much fun, and go back to kind of some of our regular scheduled programming. We like to introduce you to as many tools and as many professionals in the industry as possible to help kind of supercharge your business. And I think today is going to be one of those episodes. So whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on the podcast, I'm really excited. Buckle up. There's going to be a lot of good content and stuff for you to check out as a result of this. Now, if you are watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It's really the only way that we grow this channel. We don't do ads. We don't run ads to the channel or anything like that. And we really are trying to provide value here. So if there's someone who you feel like is in your network who would share, who would take some value from being a part of this show and listening to the show or watching it, please consider sharing with them. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today, I am so honored to welcome Carissa Kruse to the show with Carissa Kruse Weddings. Thank you so much for being here.
yeah, no problem. I'm super excited to chat with you.
I'm excited as well. You are a content and business marketing strategist, and I love your website. We were actually just talking about this before you got on. You have so many cool pages that are, in my opinion, really practical, right? All of the different tools that you like using, and I absolutely love that, because then you kind of get to go, like, that's almost the good stuff in some ways, like, oh, what stuff are you using to kind of supercharge your business? Tell me a little bit about how you got started in the industry. Like, how do you come across our industry? Give me your origin story.
Yeah, so I started from scratch. I was never in the wedding industry previously. I had sales and marketing background. That's what I went to school for. I actually got into the corporate world. So I was in insurance, I was in real estate, as a couple of my options or a couple of my background pieces. And then I ended up working more and more with small businesses. And so I started my own marketing company. And then from there, I started having people ask me about doing weddings, which was really weird. And so I was like, well, there obviously is something here. And I'm always all about listening to what people are telling you around you. So as your clients are talking, or your leads are talking to you, your clients, listen to what they're saying, because or even if you're not even in business yet and you're thinking of getting into a business, just listen to that, what people are asking for, because there's obviously a niche there, and maybe you can fill that niche. So that was kind of what I did. And I thought, okay, there's something here. So I had photography as a background as well. So when I started, I had told my husband, I said, hey, I'm going to start a wedding business. And this was like in August. And he's like, what? And I had my marketing company already. And he's like, what? Okay. Well, and then we ended up, I signed up for an expo in January. And so then I kind of planned out all of my stuff. And I took my marketing and sales background and applied it to the wedding industry. And what I learned was there were some things that worked, but there were some things that didn't work, because our industry is it's different. So as we try to market, and sell to brides, it's different. It's totally different than anything else. And so that's what I've learned over the years. So yeah, I really started from scratch, from no contacts, no experience, and just kind of dove right in. And I've grown my business we started with really 2 services. We have 4 services now, and then we're in 3 states as well. So I've expanded it. And so I have a team that helps with each state as well, but I've kept it very boutique-ish is what I call it, because I still work with all of the brides specifically myself. So I am very big on that they still get that hands-on experience. It's not this big company that I'm just passing people through, because it's still once in a lifetime event, hopefully. And so we want it to be, the best. And so, yeah, so it's very boutique-ish yet.
And this is on the planning side, correct? Carissa Kruse weddings, because you mentioned brides just now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I used to say brides a lot, but couples is kind of what I mean. But we offer right now photography, videography, photo booth, and DJ services. Those are the 4 services that we offer. And previously we offered invitations as well prior to COVID. But then with COVID, it kind of changed that whole dynamic. And so we no longer really offer those. And then we've done wedding planning in the beginning of the years, but then it didn't really fit with the model that I wanted to create. So then we kind of put that one to the side or whatever. So that was, so I have kind of that weird industry of being able to know what brides and couples what's working, what's not in a lot of different areas. And then I was also a director of marketing for a real estate company. And so I am familiar with the whole venue side. I have rentals myself. I've looked at starting a venue, but I haven't actually done that yet, but it's on my bucket list. So
Amazing.
I've kind of got that whole that side of it too. So it's fun.
Very cool. Let's start there. Actually, we're going to get into so many good things and even some more content creation specific stuff here in a little bit. But I want to ask you, in your professional experience working on the sales and marketing side, not in our industry, and then sales and marketing as you understand it now that you're in the wedding and events industry, what do you think are some of the main differences between our industry here, the wedding and events industry, and other types of sales and marketing efforts that you would have kind of in industries that are not this industry?
Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing is the repeat customers. Obviously, we don't really have that repeat base. Now, if you're a photographer, you might then offer family sessions and things like that. So you can kind of hopefully keep those people and, get continuous sales. But for the most part in the wedding industry, once it's done, then we have to find that next lead. And so that's the biggest struggle. Even if you get lots of reviews and people love you, it doesn't mean that their best friend is going to book you too, right? They all have different vibes, different philosophy, just everything is so different. And so that's the biggest struggle and challenge. And the biggest difference, I would say, is just that repeat customer. So we have to do things differently to always be churning up and getting those new engaged couples. And the other thing that I've noticed too is each year, the couples are younger, but we're older, right? So we also have to stay in tune to what these younger couples want. And technology also is a piece to that's always changing. And so over the years, as an example is, it used to be, we did, in-person consultations. Well, now a lot of times we do Zoom consultations now, right? And so, or people wanted to be, we would always call, and now people want text. And so we have to kind of adapt, in that adapting has been a really short period of time. So just because of something that worked last year doesn't mean it works this year. So you have to really stay on top of it. And the biggest reason I think for that is just because the technology and things has just gone so rapidly. And so that's really the biggest things. And so it's creating a marketing strategy that will stand the test of time, is what I say. And there's a way to do that because there's still foundational pieces within your marketing that will never change. But then once we have that, we can then tweak these pieces as the environment changes.
Totally. That makes so much sense, and it makes it uniquely challenging because you do have to get all those clients again and again and again. You have to fill that calendar again, and it's not always the same. It might change. There might be a platform that you over-index for this year, but it's not going to be the same next year. What can venue owners, and maybe just even in general, people in the wedding and events industry, what can our industry do to make sure they're staying on top of the trends without getting whiplash and constantly just like jumping on every different platform that pops up, every 6 months?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is finding a couple people in our industry that you can follow and that are keeping you kind of abreast to what's working and what's not. What I try to do is, if something new comes in, I'll test it out because I have my wedding business to be able to test it to see if that works, if that doesn't work. And then I can share those results with my audience and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing is working now. So one example is, it used to be prior to COVID that people would book faster, it seemed like. So they would reach out, the turn time to the booking was maybe within a week or so, 7 to 10 days. And now it seems like it takes maybe even a few months. So like I've had several couples, because we nurture them and then we continuously stay in touch with them with a bi-monthly newsletter. But they're reaching out 2, 3, even I had one that was 6 months ago that was like, hey, we're ready to book you now. So there's some things there that I can then say, hey, here's what I'm seeing in our market, in our industry. Here's what I would try. And so then that way because most of the time, if you're a wedding venue or a wedding pro, you don't really have that ability to test and different things, because you need that, you need that booking, right? You have a set amount that you're trying to make per month. And so you don't really want to deviate too much from what you're doing, because you're like, I don't, will that mess up, anything? And so, and I remember that feeling of too, back years ago, thinking, well, if I change this, does that mean I'm not going to get any bookings then, or that kind of thing. And so, so that would be the biggest thing is find a couple people that are testing the things out for you that you can rely on, or that you can even just DM them and say, hey, I'm curious about this. Do you know anything about this? Should I try it? And just, get some feedback before you go down that rabbit hole.
That's huge. I think that's great advice. Do you think it matters the geographical location? Because, we're going to have someone listening to this right now who's maybe in Indiana or in Tennessee or in Georgia, and they're saying, well, that might work for a place in Texas or a place in California. I know the wedding industry itself is very different all across the country, but do you think there are similarities in user and consumer behavior patterns across the United States, kind of like everyone universally can tap into?
Yes, I would say a lot of what I'm seeing is, because I work with people all over the globe, actually, even internationally. And what I see is that it's all very similar. So there might be a few tweaks here or there that we want to do, or based on the specific service you offer. But overall, pretty much it ends up working. And I can also, again, test it because I got the photo, video, DJ, and photo booth. So I kind of have that whole spectrum there that I can kind of test out. So yeah, so I would say that it kind of, most of the time it works across all areas and markets.
Yeah. One of the things that has been challenging in our business, and we manage, wedding venues, we manage event venues here in Southern California. And as we grow, as we actually look to take on venues and manage venues that are outside of California, we're starting to see that, consumer behavior is a bit different, booking times are different, like the feedback that we're starting to receive. We just did a full audit for last year, and our booking time on average is about 3 weeks. And that was, different, and really, I think, a bit slower, because people would come and book us within a week or 2 weeks. At least that's what it really felt like prior. But now all of a sudden, obviously, we're getting off of COVID. We're getting off of like this pent up demand. So now we've settled into more of like normal, maybe.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the platforms themselves, because I know a lot of venue owners, they're fire starters. A lot of business owners, right? They're fire starters. They are in the nuts and bolts and kind of the specifics of their business, and they may not be really comfortable with like, singing and dancing on TikTok, or creating these fun, cool, creative reels for Instagram. Yep. Like, how can someone leverage these platforms without kind of doing the stuff that we see everyone doing to like show up on these platforms?
Yep. So that is one of the things that I teach and I am big on is content strategy. And that is also something that has kind of changed over the last few years, right? The more and more content you create, it seems like the more and more exposure you get is kind of how that is. but who has time to sit here and create a ton of content? Nobody wants to. Most of the time, people don't want to be in front of the cameras. If you didn't really grow up in that, it's really hard to get yourself into that. And I'm the same way. Like, I literally have to like sit down and like have my content day to record stuff, because it's just not a nature in me to go, hey, I'm going to record myself right now. Right. So that is where I created a content club so that you never have to create anything from scratch. Because that was the biggest struggle and challenge that most people had was, if I had something to start with, then I could easily put something out there. So the Weddingpreneurs Content Club was created to help with that struggle. And I took it even a little bit further. And so we provide social media templates, and then we also provide the captions for the social media templates. We provide story templates. And then we also have the Instagram Reel, TikTok concept and scripts that we give you so that you can easily know what audio to use. And we share with you how to make that video, and you don't have to dance. You don't have to, it's more of giving those tips and sharing pieces about, your venue or the services you offer. And then we actually give you the captions to use for those too. And then we take it even another step further, and we give you the 2 bi-monthly email newsletters that are professionally copywritten, and they have they're more value-based, and then you weave your services in at the very end of it. So what's good about those is that after, because people are taking longer to book, that after they go through your welcome sequence, then it's like a lot of times they fall off, or you're manually having to follow up, where you can implement an email marketing sequence or email marketing monthly, and then every 2 weeks they would get an email, but it's more of tip value based. So that way you're not like, hey, are you booking my services? Are you going to book our venue? That type of thing. You're kind of just showing up. And then one other piece, we provide 2 blog posts every month too. Those, however, we do recommend that you take the time and add to those to make them so the SEO, you get the reward of the SEO and all of that stuff. But I have a whole success path. You don't implement this all at once. We take it in piece by piece so you can get it all implemented. But the exciting thing is with the social media templates, we actually have a niche specific templates, and we have venue templates in there, which I know a lot of your audience is venues. So we have venue templates in there, but then we also have 7 other: photographer, DJ, officiant, wedding planner. I'm missing a few others, florists, a few others are in there, but there's like 8 of them now.
That's amazing. So, maybe we can get that link from you, and we'll put it in the description so that anyone who is really struggling with this, because I know, until we started regularly creating content for the podcast, it's tough. Like, you're like, what am I gonna do? And then you're like, you pick up the phone, and then you record once or twice, and you're like, I don't like it, and then you just delete it, and something happens, and you gotta go and start working on whatever else. And so to have this formula and this roadmap, that's really valuable.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times too, you feel like you're on your own, and you're just kind of like, it's just like you're in your own little world. And so that's where we have a community aspect too. So it's fun because you can kind of see other people are creating content at the same time, and then it's like, okay, and it actually creates some excitement around it. And so after people join the club, they're like, I get messages that are like, I'm actually excited to create my content, which is the goal, because we want to love what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about a couple of different things that are new on my radar, certainly, but is a very popular topic. Artificial intelligence and how that's really changing the landscape of content creation. Before we get to that though, you mentioned email newsletters, you mentioned email marketing. Can you help me have a better understanding of how a wedding or event pro, and specifically event venue owners, can use email marketing as a strategy, just because we don't have those repeat clients? So the email marketing sequence is going to have to be different, because you can't just, it's not like a coaching thing or something where they can purchase at any time. Likely if they're still on the same list a year after, they're probably not going to use your venue services.
They're probably not going to book. Yeah. So with email marketing, I feel like that is a piece that a lot of people don't utilize within their wedding business. And so this is where you can really stand out. And because a lot of times you're doing the work to get seen and to get the lead, but then we don't do the work to book that lead, like the long-term work. We want to, if they say, hey, we want to book you, great, like in that first week. But if after that first week, a lot of times they just fall off our radar and we don't follow up, unless we've talked to them already or that type of thing. And so that is an opportunity that people can really tap into to book those additional weddings. Because what happens is people get busy, especially in this day and age, people get busy or they get sick. Family members are getting sick. Things are just taking longer. So we need to stay top of mind. And that's where the email newsletters will do that, because most of your competition in any market, any service, are not doing this. And that's where I like twice a month, because I don't want to inundate them. I don't want to give, I don't want to be in their inbox too much, because we don't want to annoy them, but we don't want to be every month either. So that's where I feel like that sweet spot at every 2 weeks. And what I usually do, we'll do a list scrub. So after like every 6 months, I'll go in and do a list scrub, because I have the wedding date. Most of the time they have a wedding date or a month or a year or something like that. I can kind of figure out which ones are not probably interested anymore, and you can scrub those people off your list. You can also look at your open rates and see, like, if somebody hasn't opened your emails recently, we can remove them from your list. So there's a few different ways to do that. I also have a cold email sequence that we can send out that will kind of weed people out as well. So there's a few different ways to do it, but yeah, definitely within the wedding industry, we need to do list scrub, is what I call it, a little more often than other industries. So that's also kind of a differentiator. But email marketing is, if you're not doing it, it is one of the ways that you can really stand out. And the thing I love about it is it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Especially with the Content Club, when I give you the emails, you literally just have to pop in the few pieces that make sense for your business, because we want to weave in your services at the very end. You can literally just schedule them out like within a half hour, and you're good for the month.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. I am wondering what is good in terms of email marketing open rates for our industry.
Yep. So I would say with market wise, for like, you're going to see about a 20% open rate is a good rate from generally. I like to see for the wedding side 30% or up. And the reason I say that is because our leads are a little more hotter. We're not doing a lot of cold, like for the market wise, a lot of times people are doing, mass things and things like that. And so I like to see that about 30% or higher. What I see on my own within my wedding business is actually 40%, which is really kind of unheard of. But the open rates come down to giving them engaging emails, the subject lines and things like that. And so that's where people a lot of times struggle, because they don't know what to write again. They don't know. And so that again is what we give you inside that Content Club, so that you don't have to worry about any of that.
That makes a lot of sense. That's very cool. Okay, well, we're gonna definitely. I know I want to check it out, because we're not doing nearly as much email marketing as I know we should be doing. So I'm gonna be the first one to sign up and learn as much as I can. Okay, so talk to me about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence like OpenAI, ChatGPT. There's been all sorts of different AI tools. Jasper, which was Jarvis, for a while. Like all these different tools that I think, you open YouTube on your phone or you open Instagram and you see, artificial intelligence, or it's in the news, right? What do you think is kind of your first take on the impact that AI is having on the wedding and events industry?
So what I have seen when I've used the AI tool is there's a couple different pieces to it. So first, it takes time to kind of figure out how to get it to spit out the information that you want, right? So I've used Jarvis/Jasper now for a little while now, testing that out, just playing around with it and that kind of thing. And what I've seen is sometimes especially in the very beginning, I struggled because it wasn't really giving me what I wanted. And I'm like, okay, now I'm wasting my time, right? Like, okay, this isn't, so things have gotten a little, yeah. Or it was giving me wrong data or things like that. Well, then as I do more research, I learn, okay, so AI is giving you the framework, but the data is not really correct. You really have to go back and fill that in. It's telling you it's just kind of putting in some data that might be relevant that you can then find and put it in. So that the biggest thing with AI is it's great to give you a starting place, and then you can take and kind of weave in your own stories, your own services, but it gets you kind of that over that hurdle. And I think, as we talked earlier, creative block is what you used. I loved that terminology. So yeah, it gets you over that creative block that you can then figure out, okay, here's how I maybe start this blog post, or here's how I maybe start this email, or whatever it is, because you can really use it for a whole, a lot of different areas, but it does take a little time to play around with it. And then that's where people get, frustrated too, because again, they don't always have a lot of time. And so then they feel like they're just wasting more time than if they maybe just tried to do it themselves. So that's what I've seen, but I think it's slowly getting better too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've used or seen while using it is, I think the Jasper platform is specifically for blog and kind of copy writing type things. But if you look at OpenAI's ChatGPT and kind of that like open source artificial intelligence platform, it's text specific. So you're kind of like you're having a conversation with someone. The cool thing is it does learn. So with OpenAI, you almost have to teach it. And to your point, like you can't just say, hey, write me 30 captions for Instagram. You need to say, write 30 captions for Instagram for my wedding venue located in Ohio, and write it in a witty tone of voice. Like you really have to teach it,
Yeah, correct. Yep. And that's where I think a lot of people still struggle, because they go, okay, well, what type of tone do I want? What type? So it adds in a different, you have those additional like questions you have to go through. The OpenAI and Chat GPT and stuff like that is a little newer, and that's like taking it to a whole new level, which is just awesome, because I think it'll have a purpose in marketing, and it'll have a purpose in small businesses. It's just figuring out where is that going to come in at. I don't think it's going to replace people in general and still doing like having to write things out, because you're still going to have to end up tweaking it a little bit and things like that. You're not going to be able to totally automate the process, but it will help jumpstart and get you over that hurdle.
Absolutely. Let's pivot. You just mentioned automation and automating. We've talked a lot about email marketing sequences, just marketing and sales in general, the sales funnel. For any wedding pro listening to this right now, whether they are a venue or they have any other business, if you're using Honeybook or if you're using, any other tool out there, there are increasing automations that are available. Do you believe that it's ever disadvantageous for a wedding pro to use automation in their sales funnel?
So I try to automate as much as possible. But there are times where automation doesn't work, because we do want to still make sure we're providing that personal service. And I'm big on, I call them they're three different funnels. You have your cold funnel, your warm funnel, and your hot funnel. And each one has its own purpose. But there are pieces within there that, like, if you've had a consultation with a couple, we want to make sure that you've learned things about them probably, right, that are pertinent. So you probably want to do follow-up emails that are more pertinent to your conversation or things like that, because that's going to be a little more personal, and people want to buy from real people. So in those instances, I always say don't automate. So after you've had that, initial actual consultation, they visited your venue, whatever, put them on your hot leads list and do kind of your personal follow-ups. You can still send them your welcome sequence. You can still send them your bi-monthly newsletters, because again, they're value-based. But then, for that process, I always say manual, because there's going to be, you really can't automate it because each one's different. And you want to create that personal experience with them. So that's the biggest piece I find.
Could you explain you mentioned the term and twice now, value-based email. So that those two, email newsletters per month are value-based. What do you mean when you say about that?
Yeah. So there's I always look at it as two different ways that you can send an email. You can kind of send an email that is, I guess there's three different ways. But the one way is that you're like, hey, you're following up. It's kind of like, hey, are you going to book my services? And that's what I find most people are doing. Hey, hope you're having a great week. I just thought I'd check in and see what you thought of the proposal. Were you ready to, book our venue or book our service, that kind of thing. That's what most people do. The value-based is where you're giving some type of tip, you're just talking about something that showcasing you're an expert in weddings, something that they might not have known, something that will help them with their planning. And so if you're a venue, for instance, it's nice because really you can share just about anything. Other wedding pros, sometimes DJs, photographers, they get stuck thinking they can only share about photography or DJ services. And I'm big on, within your content, share about all different types of pieces of a wedding, because that way you're showcasing yourself as an expert. You're also showcasing yourself as like a giver in that, hey, I want to help you. So that is really the value-based, is you're giving them some type of tip, some type of piece that they can take to implement in helping them plan their wedding. And so it's not just like, hey, book my services, but at the very end, we then weave in, hey, if you're still looking for a venue or you're still looking for a photographer, whatever it is, you can book a call with me here. So then they're seeing you as, and they're not wanting to unsubscribe because they're like, hey, I just learned something I didn't know. And so they're excited to get your email. So your open rates go up as well, because they're not just like, hey, are you ready to book me? So you're setting yourself apart in your market, and you're staying top of mind, and you're staying, and what I found too is when you send these emails, somebody might have went with somebody else, but they have a friend that just got married and they're still getting your emails. And then they're going to say, hey, check out so-and-so. They send me these emails. And so then it creates some excitement there from a referral base too. So there's kind of another piece to that. But then the third email that I didn't really talk about is story-based. And those story-based ones are ones that you have to write. Those are more like, and that's a whole kind of a enhanced email marketing piece. So there's really three, but the value-based we can provide to you, and you can swipe.
Very cool. So really it sounds like the two main types, you pros really want to shift away from just having it be like this, hey, book with us, or, get out of my inbox kind of thing, or like get off of my CRM. Moving away from those and moving into more providing tips, providing tricks, providing planning hacks, providing like all sorts of different value, so that there is some sense of like reciprocity, some sense of like goodwill and gratitude that's built. Makes so much sense. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Definitely something, and I think venues can talk about everything, but I think planners, I think DJs, so many different categories can help, because then it's like, there's not a feeling of you have to buy that service. You're not buying planning services from a DJ, but the DJ is giving you some of that advice based on their industry experience. That's very cool.
Yep. And then sometimes what happens too is I'll see that they'll respond and go, hey, do you happen to have a referral for a planner? You know what I mean? So then you can because they're already, they might trust you, you're building that rapport with them. So then they might be looking, and then you can, start referring some other vendors in your market. And then I always say, if you do refer somebody, personally send that email to that vendor saying, hey, I just referred you to a couple, and because then that also builds that rapport, that then they also feel like, well, hey, I should reciprocate back. And so then you can start to do that. So I'm always, because a lot of times we will refer people, but we don't take it that next step and let them know that we referred them. And that's the piece that will really help keep you in front and stay top of mind, because, if somebody refers you, you feel like, oh, I should refer them back, right?
Totally. Totally. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing all of this knowledge with us, like your experiences with sales and marketing, but also these resources that you have. So I think we're gonna figure out all the specifics, after the call. But we'll get the program, the landing page for the different offerings that you have, because I think it'd be really valuable for wedding pros. And then if someone wants to connect with you directly, they're interested in kind of hearing more about what you're up to, or they want to hire you, where should people be reaching out to you?
Yeah, you can go to my Instagram. My handle's Carissa Kruse Weddings. And then my website's CarissaKruseWeddings.com. So either one works.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Carissa, thank you so much for coming on the Venue RX today. It's been really fun getting to know you a bit and chatting about all these topics. And I'm excited for everyone as they keep growing their businesses. It's kind of scary because things always change, but then it's kind of exciting because things always change too, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's a wonderful industry to be in. But yes, it's always changing. So we always have to kind of stay up on it and what's next.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we'll have to have you back on the show. I usually like to bring guests that I've had back on the show to kind of see where they're at, how their businesses have evolved. And so it'd be fun to chat again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome.